Good morning, everyone. We are flying to London today through Vietnam from Sydney. The flight time to Vietnam is 8 hours, and from Vietnam to London is 13 hours. Let's fly.
I had my bags packed, and it was finally time to make a much awaited trip to the airport. On the way to the airport, I happened to spot some kangaroos. The drive to the airport was an hour and a half, but it felt a lot longer because I was so excited. The last time I went to England was 2018 since the pandemic hit. Life had been building up to this moment for a very long time. We were finally approaching Sydney Airport. I decided to leave the house 6 hours early after being told the lines were long. To my surprise, even though I was very early, I still had to wait for 2 hours. Despite the long line, online check-in helped speed up the process. After checking in, I headed towards the departure for security checks. Finally, I decided to look around. There was huge designer department stores everywhere, and I was taken aback. Before I boarded, I treated myself to a croissant and a smoothie, watching my plane arrive. This is when I found out that the flight would be delayed for one additional hour. Finally, the plane was ready for boarding. I was ready to explore the interior of the plane and find out how good Vietnam Airlines really was. After the delay in the flight before we even managed to board the plane, my hopes for the journey weren't too high. When I got into my seat, I realized how cramped and uncomfortable it really was. Yet another negative. I did, however, manage to get a window seat, which allowed me to shoot this footage clearly. As the plane began to take off, I began getting last-minute jitters. On the contrary, this was accompanied by an overpowering sense of joy that soon I would be reunited with my family on the other end. Once the plane took off, I was drawn to the entertainment aspect. Despite the movie selections being limited, there was a relatively new movie on called Bullet Train. This surprised me. When it came to food, I was very pleased to know that the airline provided a halal option. However, the food was mediocre. Nothing too special considering I was still 40,000 feet in the air. I was also pleasantly surprised that economic passengers were given stainless steel cutlery, as opposed to plastic cutlery that is usually given. After I had watched as many movies as I could and eaten, it was time for landing. We were arriving in Vietnam, and the city looked beautiful from up there in the sky. The landing was smooth too. Expectedly, I had to stand in yet another queue after exiting the plane at international transfers. The business lounge was lovely with a nice view of the Vietnam airport. I was charged 43 US dollars for my stay, which was 4 hours long. I find this relatively pricey. The food that was available to me was not up to my standards, as they did not cater to halal dietary requirements. What I ended up having was some vegetables and dragon fruit. After I ate, I decided to look away from the negatives and just focus on the good things that were happening. This view was ominously beautiful, and the massage chairs helped me to relax. Now it was time for boarding. This was the final flight before I reached London at last. Once again, the food was average, but I was given a halal option that I had previously ordered through an airline agent. Passengers were given a warm citrus facial towel, which freshened my face during a long trip. I was lucky enough to have two empty spaces beside me, giving me lots of space to freely move around. Soon I became very tired and decided to doze off. When I woke up, I was in shock. I saw that the plane had been going in circles. This is something that I'd never seen before in my life, and I was terrified. The passengers on the plane were equally as confused and scared, and everyone thought that something terrible had happened. Later, the pilot announced that the plane had not got the signal for landing, which is why it was flying in circles around the airport. Thank goodness, we were about to land in beautiful London at last. As I stepped out into London, the realization that I was here at last hit me like a plane. Now I began worrying about how long it would be before I could get through passport control. Luckily for me, there were little to no people, and I was out of the airport in no time.
Absolutely shattered. But after 35 hours of travel, we are here in London. It's pretty cold, very cold. Quite excited.
Here I was at last, reunited with my family and ready to begin my week-long holiday. It was currently 7 a.m. How I miss the sunny rays of light shining through the clouds on a gorgeously bitter cold day. Despite how excited I was also exhausted and famished. Luckily, the family home I'd be staying in was only a short distance away from Heathrow Airport. Only in London do you see two planes flying right by each other. Stay tuned for episode 2, critiquing various foods in London. Stay safe, everyone. This is your presenter Syed Razvi signing off.